We're about to show you one of the oldest tricks in the investigative business. Cops do it, PIs do it, and so do we. We place a Dolcefino Consulting business card in the doorframe of this small house in Rosenberg, a way to tell if the front door is ever opened. It's this small house that's under surveillance by the Dolcefino crew. Out front, there's a 22-year-old pickup truck. We left our card on February 7th and returned 7 days later. And guess what? Our business card was still there. And so was that car. It's pretty clear that no one's opened this front door in a while. On the porch, there are campaign signs. There's one in the front window too, and one waving out in the breeze in the front yard of the place. All signs for a guy named Dan Matthews. He's run and lost in 2 elections already in this state. 4 years ago, Matthews ran for Congressional District 22 and lost. 2 years ago, he ran for state representative in District 76 and lost. And now he's a candidate in the Texas House race in Fort Bend County District 28. Boy, he sure moves around a lot, doesn't he? Let's listen to this straight shooter who's avoided us for weeks. The host of the YouTube video apparently likes to be on camera, but listen closely to what Dan Matthews is saying.
Our election integrity should be in your mind.
We agree, Mr. Matthews. Election integrity is on our mind too. We spent the last year trying to clean up elections in Harris County. Thousands of illegal votes found, a horribly run 2022 election. And we get asked to investigate politicians who just don't tell the truth about their eligibility to even run for office. Our criminal complaint about Fort Bend County Sheriff's candidate Pete Luna is now being investigated by the Dallas County DA's office. His house is in Harris County. The Fort Bend County Democratic Party knew it and did nothing about it. And we can look at the Texas Constitution to see who is eligible to run to be a member of the Texas House of Representatives.
It simply says that you have to be a resident of the district you're going to be elected to for at least 12 months before the general election date.
On Dan Matthews' sworn application to be on the ballot in District 28, he claims this Rosenberg address is his permanent address. And it's a crime not to tell the truth on this government record. It's true that Matthews does own this home. He owns others too. But look when it was bought. October 6th, less than a month before the residency deadline, right under the wire. But there's a ton of evidence that Dan Matthews really doesn't live here.
That's right. And he also, the evidence indicated, put it up for rent on November 7th after the deadline for establishing residency.
And did you conduct surveillance on Daniel Matthews on or about December 26th and 27th, 2023?
Yes, I did.
Last month, a private investigator who works a lot with us gave sworn testimony in a lawsuit filed by Gary Gates, the Republican incumbent in Texas House 28, who's running for re-election.
I'm Governor Greg Abbott, and I am proud to endorse Gary Gates for the Texas House of Representatives.
Gates asked the judge to issue an emergency order to have Matthews disqualified from the March ballot, alleging that he was pulling a fast one on those folks in 28. Matthews had been watching on multiple days and nights, and the video evidence was crystal clear. He was waking up and going home at night to a more expensive 2-story house in Missouri City, and that's not District 28, it's District 27. Oops.
And what's the basis for your opinion?
In documenting the activities at the residence, he comes and goes freely from that house as a normal person would at their own residence. His family's there, vehicles are there. They're there in the morning, they're there in the evening, and at night. Basically throughout the day, throughout the surveillance, that's the residence that he went and came from.
And when somebody comes in and runs in an area they don't live in, don't intend to live in, that's kind of cheating the residents out of their local representation.
As of December 19, 2023, that permanent address being used by Matthews was clearly empty. Investigators could see inside, and that was before Matthews made sure to close the blinds.
the interior, at least from what was visible, was empty.
Did you see any furniture?
No, sir.
Did you see any clothing?
No.
Did you see any sign of human habitation?
No.
When anyone ever went to that house to check and see if he was home, he was never there in Rosenberg, and instead the house is empty.
Matthews was also deposed in this lawsuit. Sadly, there is no video. It would have been fun. But Dan Matthews not only wants you not to believe the surveillance video, he wants you to believe he's some kind of nomad. Quoting, "I have multiple properties, so I stayed in multiple places as time permits or as necessary." Matthews owns a house in Sugar Land that he bought in January of 2020. But during the deposition, he couldn't remember when he lived there and when he didn't. At one point, the lawyer even asked Matthews if he has a medical condition that impairs his memory. A little legal sarcasm. Matthews says, quote, "Not that I know of. Records we've looked at show Matthews has a homestead exemption on that house, but the tax bill, it goes to that Missouri City address." Matthews bought that house in Missouri City back in August of 2020, and then he gifted it to his daughter in April of 2022. But he admits he pays all the bills because she doesn't have a job.
What do you think is the most compelling evidence?
Number one, he was served in the lawsuit at the house in Missouri City. He didn't change his address on his driver's license until the day after he was served at the house in Missouri City.
Hello, I'm trying to reach Dan Matthews.
I'm sorry, who's this?
We first called Matthews weeks ago.
We want to find out what you have to say about some of the surveillance that shows you live in Missouri City.
Give me the number. I'll pass it on to him. Okay.
We've been trying to find Mr. Matthews for weeks, but he never calls us back. But he's been going around bragging that Gates lost that lawsuit.
Well, the court did not say that he was eligible to run. Court never even got to consider that.
Because the law says one day after the filing deadline, it's too late to get someone off the ballot for the primary. But if Matthews should win, don't be surprised if the Democrats try to get him off the ballot.
He bankrupt my campaign. He spied me my private property, using legislative staff to spy and videotape my house.
We plead guilty to the charge of just trying to make sure that you actually have the right to represent those folks in District 28, including your neighbors in Rosenberg who know you don't live there. Matthews did change his voter registration to that Rosenberg address before the November election. He had to, but his wife and his kids are registered to vote in Missouri City, District 27. They can't even vote for him in March. Why should you?
And I think that if the voters look at the evidence, they're likely to conclude that Mr. Matthews doesn't live in House District 28 and therefore is not eligible to run.